So earlier this week I carried out my media fast. The first thing I had to consider really was which day would be the most convenient to avoid media. So I had a look through my calendar and eventually decided to carry out my media fast on Sunday the 12th of May, as I knew I would be carrying out a charity walk in Wales called the Bala Challenge. And I kind of had the thought process of I would be in Wales in my grandparents' house, and they don't really get much in the way of TV and they don't have internet, and there's very little signal, so I can't really get in touch with anyone on my phone anyway. So I kind of thought that this would be the easiest place really to avoid media, and it wasn't really until the night before the media fast and the charity walk that I fully started to think about what this whole media fast would mean. It would basically be the first time in 8 years I would be attempting the Bala Challenge without the aid or company of music. Basically, as Bull suggested, how we use music as a mood maintainer, I often do this on the Bala Challenge. I listen to upbeat music to try and get me motivated. But now I would actually have to talk to my family instead, which is not really a bad thing. I guess most people on the media fast had the problem that they couldn't talk to their family because they weren't with them, so I guess it was quite convenient that I'd chosen a day where I was with my family, so I didn't need to warn them that I would be carrying out a media fast and that there was no point really in trying to get in contact with me. But basically the walk and the media fast got me thinking about how attached we are generally to our technology, and that we might be more attached to technology than to the people around us, and that generally we tend to talk to our relatives and friends through technology rather than in person. And I think we lose something there, and the relationship might actually suffer. You don't really know when they're emphasising or what tone they're really taking. When you get a text, you could take it the wrong way when really they meant it in good faith really. And it also got me realising how reliant we are on things like phones, music and computer for entertaining ourselves, and how we kind of struggle to entertain ourselves without using media or technology. The morning of the media fast, I woke up and set off on the walk without my phone or headphones. The phone thing I wasn't really worried about, as I don't use it that often, and I have no time constraints, so I didn't really need to know the time. The headphones, however, were going to be a problem, and I fully admit I'm often glued to my headphones. Half the time I'm not even listening to anything because I've forgotten to press play, but they're in my ears nonetheless. And thanks to the media fast, I kind of realised that I don't just use it to enhance my mood or maintain my mood or even change it. I often use it to block people out. So I completed the walk without issue. I managed to avoid most forms of media, and it ended up taking up the majority of the day, so I wasn't really strapped for finding something to do. I didn't really get very bored. I had plenty of people to talk to. But I was a little worried about how I was going to entertain myself at night, but as it turned out I was far too tired after the walks. By the time I'd gotten home and eaten, I was pretty much ready for bed. The things I found interesting about the media fast were the fact that I had to actually plan ahead to kind of seek out a day that would be easier to avoid media. This kind of suggested how hard it is to avoid media, how much of media there is, and how reliant we are on it to actually have to find a day where it'd be convenient to leave your phone at home, you had no one you need to contact. So not only that this media and your phone are a source of entertainment, but it's also a convenience thing, almost like a safety thing, that you know you have a phone and your loved ones and people you trust are on the other end of it. I also found how obsessed people are with needing to know the time, because although I didn't need to know, I noticed that my other relatives on the walk, they often check the time, but then again they probably had more of an issue of having to be back for a certain time, making sure tea is cooked, whereas I, being one of the youngest people on the walk, didn't really have much of a responsibility. I found the fast relatively easy, but if I'd carried it out on any other day, I probably would have found it really difficult. As although I can go out without my phone or Facebook, music and films are generally two things I use on a daily basis to entertain myself. Another thing I found was that although I managed to avoid all forms of technology and social media, some forms of media proved kind of unavoidable. For example, advertising, there was labels and clothes, branding and road signs. It got me thinking generally about how there is so much media, and I don't really think it's all that necessary. I mean, most of it meant little if nothing to me, and I probably wouldn't even have noticed half of it if I wasn't actively trying to avoid it. So yeah, that's kind of how my media fast went. I was quite surprised by how easy I found it, but I don't think it would be easy on a long-term basis. And I can say that the immersion the next day was far more enjoyable, except for having to note down every piece of media I encountered. I found that a little annoying given how much media we are exposed to daily. But yeah, all in all, it was relatively easy to complete.